Welcome to this latest instalment in the series, The Illusion of Inclusion. My name is Alex Gladley and I'm from the University of Leeds. During this series, The Illusion of Inclusion, we have been looking at sports that are not in the Olympics, but what does it take for a sport to be accepted? This podcast explores the story of Rugby Sevens after it was successfully voted onto the 2016 Olympics programme in Rio de Janeiro by the IOC with 81 votes for to 8 against on the 9th of October 2009. Originally, rugby became an Olympic sport in 1900 and also managed to be a part of the 1908, 1920 and 1924 games. However, it was then excluded from the 1928 games. But why was this? Unfortunately, after the Americans won Olympic gold for the second time in rugby in 1924, the Parisian crowd became angry and invaded the pitch. This resulted in some members of the American crowd being knocked unconscious, and rugby was given a poor image. On top of this, the sport was not being able to attract an adequate amount of teams, and had no female teams. Only 3 teams competed in 1924, and 2 in the 1920 games. Baron Pierre de Coubertin stepped down as the head of the IOC, and rugby lost its major supporter, consequently having its request rejected to stage rugby at the Amsterdam Games. So rugby had lost its place on the Olympic programme, but why has such a popular world sport taken 92 years to make its way back to Olympic glory? To be accepted into the Olympic programme, rugby had to meet the requirements of the IOC Olympic Charter. Within this, it was declared that a sport had to be widely practiced around the world, stage a world championship, include both genders, adhere to world anti-doping laws, and also have a recognised international federation. Rugby definitely fits the bill on all accounts. However, for a new sport to be included, another sport has to be dropped. The problem lay here, as no sport had been dropped from the Olympic programme since 1936. There had been previous attempts to make rugby an Olympic sport, and perhaps to make the inclusion factor more obvious, these attempts were made by Italy in 1960, and then more surprisingly, the Soviet Union in 1980, and then from further afield in South Korea in 1988. But in July 2008, baseball and softball were axed from the Olympic programme, paving the way for 2 new sports to show off on the world's biggest stage. One of these sports was Rugby Sevens. A lot of things worked in the favour of rugby to help it in its bid for Olympic status. The strong ethos of rugby with ideals such as fair play and teamwork closely matched the Olympic ideals. Rugby is also a popular sport with both genders. Here we can see the thoughts of Cheryl Soon, the Australian captain and a member of the IRB delegation team after they won Olympic sport status.
It's huge, it's absolutely massive. It's going to boost the game, the women's game. It's going to encourage and inspire young girls to play the game, to participate, and that's so rewarding.
A big factor was also that it was Rugby Sevens that was applying to be an Olympic sport, and not its older, bigger brother being the 15-a-side format of the game. That's because Rugby Sevens is a lot more inclusive on the world stage, whereas it can be argued that the 15s format is dominated by large countries with stronger rugby traditions. It is perhaps more possible for a rugby team from a minnow country to be able to beat a bigger country. In the last 5 years, the small islands of Fiji and Samoa have both won the IRB World Sevens Championship. As we see here, not many people would have thought that anyone in Tunisia even played rugby, but they are comfortably beating Argentina, a country that came third in the latest 2007 Rugby World Cup. For rugby then, or indeed any sport that is accepted onto the Olympic programme, the benefits of Olympic sport status can be exponential. The sport will receive a much bigger audience than it is used to, as it takes part in the biggest sporting event of all time. The sport then has a chance to showcase its best talent, and so its participation and revenue will see a massive boost as it moves into all corners of the world. All there is to do now is look forward to Rio, where the stars of tomorrow will be inspired and rugby can look forward to the brightest of futures. One thing for certain is that the Brazilians are looking forward to it.
Brazilian rugby awaits you here for the Olympic Games in 2016.
Thank you for listening. The next podcast in this series will be about squash and its struggle for Olympic inclusion.